You're known as the Hollywood Connector. What does that even mean? How do you become the Hollywood Connector?
Well, it's years and years and years of cultivating, relationships, and being, trustworthy and honest, I think, and not burning people. And I got the reputation as being kind of a fixer. So everybody calls me for everything. If their jet breaks down, I help them get a jet. If they have a concert where they have 18,000 people waiting for them, and if they want to take their family to Disneyland, I'm able to help them with that. If they want to go to a Dodgers playoff game here in LA, I can help them with that. So I just kind of have a person for everything. If they want a Rolex, it's a very rare Rolex. I have a Rolex person. So yeah.
I'm sure you didn't graduate and go, I want to be the Hollywood Connector. So, how does one fall into this? Like, what's your background?
Yeah, so I actually, funny enough, I went to school to be an orthodontist. I was a biology major and wanted to do a job that my parents were going to be very proud of me and feel good. And I thought I'd have a nice little, practice and have great patients and probably end up marrying, one of the girls that works in the office or something like that. And I ran into some friends from high school and they were like, "What are you doing?" And I said, I'm going to be an orthodontist. And they were like, "No, that's crazy. You're so extroverted and you're such a personality." And I said, "Well, I'll be a good dentist and my patients will love me. And they were like, "No, maybe you should do something else." And it kind of got in my head. I still majored in biology, but then I ended up minoring in speech communication. I started doing a lot of public speaking. And the preface of the public speaking was I have never had a drink or done a drug in my life. And it's not for religious reasons. It's not because of his history of alcoholism. It's nothing like that. I just, at a very early age, I was always in charge. And so I started throwing parties when I was like 12 years old. And so I was the person that would talk to the neighbors. I would talk to the police. I would talk to the parents of the house we were doing the party at. And so I myself never got around to being able to partake in the party because I was always kind of orchestrating the party, if that makes sense. But because of that, I kind of built a reputation of being somebody that people could count on. And as I got older, and I started going to parties and stuff like that, if somebody was too drunk to drive home or something, people would be like, go find that Dave guy, find Davo. Davo will drive them home. And so that's kind of how that began.
So, you're the problem solver.
Yes.
Okay. So, then how do you enter the Hollywood scene?
So I grew up in LA. I acted a lot when I was young, and I quit acting to play baseball. Baseball was my true love, and I wasn't passionate about playing a character. I was passionate about being myself. So I kind of quit acting, played baseball, went as far as in baseball as I could, and when I realized I wasn't going to become a professional baseball player, I really gravitated towards speaking and towards hosting. And I started to do a lot of hosting, a lot of red carpets and celebrity interviews and things like that. But I was like everybody else, like the struggling artist. I was working at a restaurant and I was a terrible waiter. But I got great tips because I was able to talk to people and communicate with people and I was honest. And so I kind of shifted, started throwing events, started, throwing weekly parties at nightclubs, and eventually had the opportunity to run the nightclubs and the restaurants, to be the GM, which was more of an adult job. And sadly, my father passed away, and I was like, God, I kind of got to stop being a kid. I got to be a little bit more focused. And so I started GMing and running places. The thing about running places is it's great because you have the stature and you have the title, but in a lot of those cases, you work like a donkey and you get paid in peanuts. I was actually making more money throwing events than I was running the places. And so I ran to a group of young kids and they were like, "You know more people than all of us. Like, what are you doing running these places? Why don't you start throwing events again? You were making so much money." And I was working like a couple days a week. And so I kind of pivoted. I kind of took a step back and I was like, you're right. I'm working really hard and I'm not really making that much money. And so I kind of created my own lane. When this all started, Twitter was kind of becoming a thing, and there wasn't a lot of money in Twitter, but there was some. And I had a company reach out to me, and they were like, we want a single mom because brands love single moms. And they're like, we're doing a campaign for Mr. Clean around New Year's and the day after a New Year's party, like, incorporating some of their products. And I threw out a name, a friend of mine named Christina Milian, who's a pretty well-known actress and singer and has done hosting as well. Great person. And Christina and I did a couple tweet deals, and this was even before Instagram. And I started helping Christina make, some extra income by just doing tweets. And so all of a sudden, she was buying new handbags and she was traveling, and her friends were like, where's all this extra money coming from? And she's like, my guy Davo. And they were like, can we meet Davo? And so I started doing that with some of her friends, and it kind of expanded. And then Instagram became a thing, and the money in Instagram was a lot bigger. In tweets, like when celebrity were tweeting originally, they were getting paid $5,000, $10,000. When Instagram started doing brand deals, it went, from $50,000 to as high as $1 million, depending on who you were dealing with. And so I really started doing that. And it was the wild, wild west at that point. And agents and managers didn't really care about it because there wasn't a lot of money in it at first. And then when they saw the money that was in it, they were like, whoa, what's going on? Who's this Dave character that's bringing you these deals? Like, we want to get in on this.
You're
and
like
then
the
it kinda,
ghost agent.
Yeah. So then it kind of changed the dynamic a little bit. And originally I had some agents and managers that weren't too pleased with me. But once they got to know me and they saw that I wasn't a threat, they were like, hey, well, you helped our client with this. Could you help our other client? And so it kind of turned into a thing.
So the first relationships you have, like Christina Milian, is that from being a GM and
Yeah,
meeting
that's
all
from
these
kind of,
people?
running clubs and being out and being at events and, just kind of meeting people organically. Jamie Foxx was one of those people that I met really organically at a club. He was on the mic doing his Jamie Foxx thing and crushing it, and everybody was having a great time.
Where was that?
I can't. I think it was a club called. It might have been Goa, or it might have been My House. A club called My House, and the microphone broke, and nobody knew what to do. And the DJ and the sound guy and everybody was trying to fix the mic. And Jamie's like, "What's going on?" And I'm watching all this happen, and I'm just one of those. I'm like a problem solver, so I just took off. I just left the club. I took off. I ran down the street and I went to like another restaurant and I was like, guys, I need your mic and I need your PA. And they're like, what are you talking about? And I'm like, I just need it. I'll bring it back like in an hour. Here's my wallet. Like, I'll be back. And I just took it and ran back up. And I came back and they were all trying to fix it and, figure out things on the switchboard and everything. And I just plugged it in and I handed him the mic and it worked. And he did his thing, and then afterwards he's like, "Who are you?" And I'm like, "I'm Dave," and he's like, "Can I get your number?" And we started talking, and we went to dinner and just hit it off, and we became very, very dear friends for a long time, and started an eyewear brand together with a couple other celebrities, Jeremy Piven, Ashley Benson, Haley Seinfeld, which was really successful and fun, and so yeah, that's kind of how that happened, and then it just kind of steamrolled. I think once you're in a situation, and this, once you have a relationship with certain people, it allows other people to let their guard down.
Yeah.
And you immediately become, oh, he's friends with so-and-so. Oh, then he must be a good guy. Or
That's so true. If so-and-so trusts him, then
correct.
Can't be so bad, right?
Yeah.
No, that's good.
Yeah.
And then Leonardo DiCaprio was one of your other first
Yeah,
connections.
Leo, we were around, going out to clubs around the same time and, running in similar circles. And he was, he's a great, great guy, obviously, just so incredibly talented. It's just crazy that he doesn't have multiple Oscars. And, we just met in circles and within a group of friends. And, he was somebody else that people would be like, who is that guy? And he'd be like, oh, that's Davo. He's a good guy. And again, you have Leonardo DiCaprio, you have Jamie Foxx saying nice things about you to people. It immediately, makes them kind
Yeah.
of like, okay, maybe that guy isn't so bad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you just seamlessly transition to, okay, and then, we started an eyewear brand. How does that happen? That's kind of a big deal. You don't just casually start an eyewear
Right.
brand.
So I kind of, as I told you, I have a person for everything. And I was actually on a trip in Israel, and I was with a group that we went out there, and one of the guys was a business guy, and he was kind of trying to talk to me, and I was out there with Jeremy Piven, the actor, and George St. Pierre, who's a famous UFC fighter. And this guy was, trying to talk to us over a couple days, and we didn't really know him. And, but we were there a few days, and we started talking more. And he said, I want to start a business with you and with some of your relationships. And I didn't really know what to think of it. And he started talking about it and started talking about the money that you could make. And my ears kind of perked up. And we originally talked to Jeremy, and it was like, should we do suits because you're always playing an actor in suits?
Right.
Should we do cufflinks? Should we do eyewear? Like, what should we do? And we were like, eyewear would be kind of interesting. I come back from that trip in Israel. 2 weeks later, I'm with Jamie Foxx, and he had an event in Las Vegas. He stopped he forgot his sunglasses, his nice, expensive sunglasses. We stopped at a gas station. He bought like a $13 pair of sunglasses. He put them on. He went to the event. He wore them on the red carpet. Everybody's like, what are those? What are those? And he leaned over and he's like, what do I say? Do I say they're Louis Vuitton? Do I say they're Gucci? Like, I'm like, I don't know. And he goes, we got to get in the sunglass business. And I was like, I have a guy. And so I called the guy, and I was like, I know this sounds crazy, but he was at a dinner. I'm like, I need you to walk out of the dinner. I'm going to put Jamie Foxx on the phone. And now you have Jamie Foxx and you have Jeremy Piven, because I wanted to cover different demographics. And I was like, I'm thinking of a couple women that we could get involved as well. And I think, we could do this. And that's how it happened.
And this is when Entourage is huge.
This was actually post-Entourage.
Post-Entourage.
This was post-Entourage.
Yeah, but it was already like a big deal. Everyone knew him, right?
Yeah, everybody knew Jeremy, and obviously everyone knew Jamie. And Ashley Benson, had a hugely successful show, Pretty Little Liars. And at the time, she, was one of those first people that had millions and millions of Instagram followers. And then Haley Seinfeld was like more the younger, like up and coming actress that everyone knew was going to like explode. So that way we were able to cover, different demographics and kind of, use social media to our advantage and promote it properly and everything. And so that's something I really enjoy. Right now I'm in the process of a clothing company that Pete Davidson and I are partnering in with an influencer named Dylan Rupp and a couple other people. And then I'm starting a candle brand as well, with a couple celebrities. And so I really enjoy kind of building brands and creating those type of things. And, I love bringing people together. And I really like having, like I said, with the sunglass brand, we had 4 different people from 4 different walks of life. And so to be able to bring them together to create a successful brand was really cool.
So when you're first jumping into these deals and it's kind of new territory, how are you protecting yourself in these deals? Are you thinking that, let me get an attorney, make sure I don't get screwed over?
Yeah, well, I'm glad you bring that up, because I've been screwed over a lot, and I've been taken advantage of a lot, and I've made a lot of people a lot of money. I think part of my kind of gift, so to speak, in terms of people is I'm driven more by connection than I am by money. And for that reason, that's why I think the celebrities that are always dealing with people wanting something from them, I think they're able to see there's a genuineness with me that it's more about the connection than it is taking advantage.
Take.
Yeah. And so I've learned the hard way. It's not for people to feel sorry for me. I have a great life, but a lot of people that know me, they think I have hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars in the bank, because they're like, there's no one that knows more people than you do. How could you not? And I remember a few months back, I took Machine Gun Kelly. We went to an event in Las Vegas, and we were flying back, and something came up about money. And he's like, dude, you have way more money than I do. And I go, are you kidding me? No, I don't. Because he was like, how could you not? You have all these relationships. You know all these people. And so I'm learning that still. I'm still learning how to do that. But a long time ago, I had a friend, a very successful businessman, and he stepped in and he was like, yo, I'm getting you an attorney. You know, you're a good guy. You're not a money person, so I need someone to be the bad guy and kind of structure your deals. And so I do have someone that helps me with that, because that's the one side of business I do not enjoy. I do not enjoy negotiation. I don't enjoy that stuff at all.
Of course, yeah. What was the first kind of, how should I phrase this? I don't want to say the first time you got screwed over, but like, what was the first kind of slap in the face where you're like, ugh, this was not cool?
I mean, there's been so many because I've introduced, like I said, so many people to each other. I mean, I've introduced people to do songs together that the songs became successful. And multiple people made money off the songs, and they forgot, because I wasn't like, hey, what about me? And so, you know, I've learned that. Like I said, with the agents and the managers, I've done deals with their clients where after the deal was done, I was like, wait a second, don't I get a percentage of that? And they're like, no, you should have said something in the beginning. You don't get a percentage of it. It's done now. And so that's been a little hard.
You would think that would be just like the normal person thing to do. Like, hey, I really appreciate you making this opportunity happen. Because we wouldn't have otherwise met, and this wouldn't have happened. So you would think it would be just like common courtesy.
I think that's been one of my biggest problems, is that I always assume people are going to do the right thing.
What you would do.
I always think people are going to do the right thing. And I've thought that 1,000 times. And, you know, 999 times, they do the opposite. You know?
Well, and it's like tricky too. If you're like, oh, you know what? This would be a great collaboration for these two to do a song together. Let's go to dinner, have them meet, see if they click. And then what are you going to do? Hey, sign a contract because we're going to dinner. You know, it's like it's a gray area.
It's very tricky. And, you know, even I'm dealing with this actually currently. I had a big meeting yesterday where I'm attaching an actor to a movie project, and it's going to be massive. And I called one of my friends who's a celebrity, and I was like, what do I got to do here? And he's like, I know that you trust this actor, and I know that you trust the people that are putting this movie together, but he's like, you got to make sure and protect yourself. So let's have an attorney write something up. You have the actor sign it. You have the producer sign it, because I'm a producer on it. I'm the one that put it together. So that's what I'm going to do with that. But I mean, again, I always think people are going to do the right thing, and you hope they are, but the world's a different place these days.
It's kind of a limiting title, Hollywood Connector. I heard you on the phone. I was eavesdropping. You do much more. You're actually more of a producer than you are. You're not just a connector. So does that title ever box you in when you need to kind of establish yourself in a situation?
It's funny because it comes up, because a lot of people, and it's funny because when people say, well, what do you do? I don't like saying what I do. I would rather have somebody else explain what I do, because to me it sounds a little pretentious, and it sounds like a little bit like I'm cool. Name
dropping. And,
yeah, exactly. So generally, if I'm in a room, I'll be like, I'll let my friend tell you what I do, because, you know, and they're like, oh, okay, I get it. It's funny, my last relationship, my girlfriend at the time, she was, you know, excited to introduce me to her dad, and she's like, what do I tell my dad? Like, I can't say you're a doctor. I can't say you're a lawyer. I can't say you're an orthodontist. Like, and he's not going to understand if I say you're a connector or a fixer, you know? And so we kind of went with producer, because I do essentially produce. I'm producing shows. I'm producing brands. So, you know, but at the same time, I don't want to limit it to just that. You know,
they're all limiting titles.
It's a producer, connector, fixer. You know, it's kind of all those things. And so it's definitely interesting, but it kind of adds to my story too. Because people are like, I don't really, there's a very well-known comedian, Whitney Cummings, who's a dear friend of mine, and she's the sweetest.
So funny.
She's amazing. And literally every person that Whitney meets through me, she goes, what does Dave do? What does he do? You know what I mean? Because she's like, I don't get it. He's here. He's there. He's with this person. He's with that person. And we all like laugh about it, you know?
Well, and then you're just mentioned all the time. Like Demi Lovato was it Kimmel or one of the night shows where she was like, oh yeah, I just called Davo, told him bring people over to my house. Next thing you know, it's Snoop is here. And, you know, so it's just funny that you're mentioned everywhere and you're
Yeah.
described as everyone's pal. Like, how does this guy become everyone's pal? So you're obviously bringing a lot of value to their lives.
Yeah. And I think, in those situations, I'm just somebody that they trust and they feel comfortable with. And, I'm blessed in that regard. I would say it's weird because I'm more known in the celebrity circles than I am in the mainstream America circles. Like, so I'm kind of a celebrity within the celebrity world, but not the outside world. And so
it is a small world.
it is a small
People
world.
talk.
Yeah.
Everyone knows each other.
Yeah.
We already came across a lot of mutual friends
Right.
ourselves.
Yeah.
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 So then what would you say with all of this experience and everything that you've accomplished, which some of it was kind of by accident because you didn't totally set out
so.
to do exactly that.
Yeah.
What's your goal now? Like, what is your kind of dream situation?
My goal now is I really, really love creating brands, and I really love bringing celebrities into brands and building that, because I think, people have their idea of celebrities, and I think it's really cool on a red carpet when a celebrity is being interviewed and everyone says, okay, what are you wearing? What was it like working with this director? What was it like working across from that actor? But when on a red carpet and during those interviews, when a person says, I know you act and I know you do this stuff, but you're also an entrepreneur. You own a candle company? Tell me about your candle company and how that happened. And I think that's really cool.
Yeah.
And it's really cool for the interviewer. It's really cool for the person, because now they're not just seen as like an actor. They're now seen as like, this person does all these other things. Years ago, Ashton Kutcher, who was really known for his acting, he kind of took a step away and became this huge entrepreneur and this huge venture capital guy that was like investing in all these companies and doing all these things. And it changed the perception of him. And I don't even know the last thing that Ashton acted in. He's now kind of a business mogul and involved in all these things that we don't even know about, and it's funny because even like with Uber, I always talk, and I won't say their names, but there's a couple celebrities that they invested in Uber early on, and they made more from that Uber investment than they've made from their entire acting career.
Wow.
Or TV career, and so that's the type of stuff that I really enjoy. I think building the brands, I really am very interested in, actually producing movies and being involved, in that process and creating that. And I have quite a few projects right now. I have a home makeover show that's in development. I have a wedding show that's in development. I have a couple movies that are in development. So I think that's really exciting, and I'm looking forward to that. And again, I've been able to learn from a lot of great people and kind of watch how people do things. And I'm never going to really be able to change who I am. I'm never going to be that cutthroat business guy. But as long as I have, people looking out for me, then I'll be in good hands.
How do you select, kind of like filter out who you work with? Because there are obviously people in Hollywood who are really loyal and good friends, but then there are people who might not have your back the way that you said.
Yeah, I mean, outside of celebrities, I think because of what I do, I deal with a lot of haters, and I deal with a lot of people that hate me.
Within the industry?
Within the industry, outside of the industry, a lot of people that are pretty vicious. And
Why?
And well, they're like, why do all these people like this guy? I've had friends that were like, I don't get it. They're like, you're not that good looking, you're not that funny, you're not that successful. Why do these people love you? And I'm like, well, they probably love me because I don't say stuff like that, But they're like, no, I just don't understand. And it is very confusing to people. And I get that. And I unfortunately, by being myself, I can make some people feel uncomfortable, especially like, if you're a celebrity and you want to get something done and you reach out to your team and they're not able to do it, and then you reach out to me and I do it, that immediately makes me a target to their team. Mm-hmm. They're like, who the heck is this guy? What are you talking about?
You're threatening to them now.
Yeah. And so even though I have no aspirations or intentions to take their client away for them, I don't want to be an agent. I don't want to be a manager, but that happens. Yeah. It happens in the sports world. I deal with a lot of people in the sports world that they'll see me like, on the field at a game, or they'll see me like talking to like the owner of a team, and they're like, what the, who is, like, why are these people talking to him, you know? And so I'm very aware of that, and I'm very hypersensitive of it. And it's hard to know that people just don't like you for no reason, or because there's maybe an element of jealousy to a certain degree or something. But you know, not everyone's going to love you. And you know, for me, one of the really cool things, and I've even had people on social media that are like, you're a loser, you know, I can't believe, and in those situations, a lot of people are like, ignore it. And I'll never forget, I had somebody one time, I posted a photo with a famous person, and this guy was like, you're a loser, nobody likes you, you're like a wannabe. And I messaged the guy and I said, hey, I'm really sorry you feel that way. And I just want you to know that I don't know what's going on in your life. I don't know what you're dealing with. But I want you to know I wish you the best, and I'm going to pray for you and hope that you find happiness. And the guy wrote me back and was like, oh my God, you wrote me back. And I was like, yeah. And he goes, I didn't think you'd ever write me back. I was just trolling you. And he's like, I'm so sorry. And he goes, I just watch your life and I see what you do, and I'm just jealous. And he's like, I lost my job last week, and you know, my wife left me, and I'm just angry. And I was like, I get it, man. Like, I'm really sorry that you're dealing with that. And like I said, I'll pray for you. And I've done that on multiple occasions, and I've had the same result where the people were like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. Like, I didn't realize that you like even cared, you know, because life's not easy, you know?
Life's not easy, but a confident, happy person would not troll anyone.
Right.
That's just a fact.
Yeah.
You know, like I can't imagine ever thinking, oh, you know, let me just write something negative and make this person feel a certain way. Why?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
But yeah, sometimes like I also struggle with it whenever I do see comments that are negative. I always go, oh, okay, should I just ignore it? Or sometimes you really do want to answer and just, it's not even about like putting them in their place, but it's just about saying, hey, like, why do you think this is okay?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
It's just people are interesting.
Yeah, I have a funny story actually. Years ago, I had a celebrity friend whose daughter was in college, and she called her dad and she was crying, and she's like, Dad, I don't know if I can deal with this, and I don't know if I can be here. And he's like, what's wrong, honey? And she's like, I'm dealing with a bully at school, and all this guy does is make fun of me and put me down. And he was like, well, you know, let me drive over there and like, let's find the kid and let me like talk to him, you know, like, this is ridiculous. Like, you're my baby girl. Like, I don't want somebody like, and she's like, no, Dad, it's just horrible. It's horrible. And so he got in his car and he drove over, and he goes, where is this guy? Is he in your dorm? Where is he? And she goes, no, he's like right here. He's right here. And he's like, what are you talking about? And she's like, he's here. And she's pointing to her computer. Oh. And he was like, what? And she's like, he's here. He's like in the computer. And he's like, oh my God, you got to be kidding me. And so then that's when he was introduced to cyberbullying, and the university ended up asking him to be involved with helping parents and helping people deal with that, because that's a whole other element nowadays. Not only do you have the actual physical, you know, bully or mean person, now you have these people online that destroy people. That's incredibly sad, because, you know, there's kids that take that to heart and take their own lives. You know, because of this stuff. And so it's a really, you know, crazy time. And, you know, a lot of people in this world, the concept of family doesn't really exist anymore. And especially, you know, in your big cities where people leave, you know, their family and they go to pursue their dreams in LA or Miami or Chicago or New York. And so for people, their family becomes their little group of friends, but sometimes that little group of friends isn't real. And so, you know, one of the things that kind of helped me and made me who I was that my family and I, we had dinners together, and we talked about life, and we talked about drugs, and we talked about sex, and we talked about dating, and we talked about, you know, money and hardships and all these things. And so, you know, I'm a big believer that, you know, one day at some point, if I was ever in politics or a president, I would make it mandatory that families have dinner like minimum once a week, you know, because that allows people to really communicate and talk about what's going on. And I think that's definitely missing from the world.
Well, you're so grounded, and Hollywood is just such a competitive field. A lot of times people are very just replaceable to each other. They're like disposable to each other. How do you deal with that dynamic?
Yeah, I mean, I'm a very sensitive person, so I take a lot of that stuff to heart. And I've had, for as many relationships as I've had a few celebrity friends that we were incredibly close. And then for whatever reason, through a miscommunication or through other people getting involved or people being jealous of our friendship, those friendships were gone. I have 3 that, hurt me really deeply. And I remember some of my friends outside of Hollywood, they were like, "Oh, Dave, eventually that was going to happen. Like it's Hollywood. You couldn't expect that everyone was going to get along forever." And it was really hard on me, and I had to come to accept it and deal with it. And the thing that I'm lucky about is I work with so many people that if I were to have a falling out with a big celebrity, it doesn't really change my life too much. It's not like, and that's why I work with everybody as opposed to just working with 1 or 2 people. Because you hear those stories all the time of like a manager that might be with someone for 15 years and then their relationship dissolves and that person's left with like, oh my God, like what am I going to do now? I dedicated 15 years of my life to this person and now this person has rejected me. So, you have to take it in stride and you have to understand that, everybody has their things and you're not going to be able to please everybody all the time. And that's the other tricky thing, that when you're dealing at this level, you could come through for a person 100 times out of 100 times. And that one time you don't come through, they're like, see you later. And that happens in regular friendships as well. I'm sure you have friends that you've done a lot of things for, and they love you when you do things for them. And then the one time you're like, I can't do that. Then they're like, what do you mean you can't do that? You've changed. You just think you're cool now, So it's interesting. But I think, the key to all of this is just as much communication as possible, and really speaking from the heart. And I think, just being honest and upfront with people. That's one of the things. My roots are from back east, from Philadelphia. And I often joke and I often say that East Coast people stab you in the front, West Coast people stab you in the back.
Yeah.
And I, as a person, would rather know what's coming because then I can fix that or I can deal with that. For example, in New York, you might meet a person, let's say you and I met in New York, we might meet, we might have a nice conversation. And at the end of the conversation, if we're in New York, you might say to me, you know what? It was a great conversation. I don't really vibe with you. I appreciate you as a human, but I don't think we're going to be friends. And I'd be like, oh my God, that's so cool. It was nice meeting you. Have a great life. But out here, we'd have that same conversation. And then,
oh my God, see you next week.
You'd be like, see you next week. And you'd get in your car
Yeah.
and you'd drive home with your husband and you'd be like, who is that guy?
Yeah.
Jeez, name drop this and name drop that. It's like, it's very,
Do you remember that show Episodes?
I do.
Oh my God, it was so spot on.
Yeah.
Yeah, that like the fakeness everywhere, but then like the real comes out behind the scenes. Yeah. That's the tough thing about LA. That is very specific to LA.
Yeah.
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 So if we were to pluck you out of LA and put you in Prague or Paris, what would you be doing?
Probably the same thing. I'd probably be connecting and, fixing things. I think being a former, athlete and playing sports, I think for me, it's always hard to find that high that you get from playing sports, especially if you're good. And so for me, I get a high from fixing situations, and I get a high from things that are insurmountable, or where people will call me and they'll be like, I've been trying to get this done for months and it just hasn't worked out and I don't know what to do. I get excited by those real big challenges. That for me is really fun, and I get that athletic high from it, So if I were to, drop into another land or another place, I would probably seek out and find those same things.
It's such an underrated skill to be able to be a problem solver.
Yeah.
Because I've been in situations too. I also have a little bit of background in doing events.
Yeah.
And there are situations where you have friends that are like, oh no, this is terrible.
Right.
This sucks that it happened to you. And then there's the friend who quietly disappears and tries to actually resolve the problem. And
Yeah.
you just need a lot of those people around you, but it's actually rare.
Yeah.
So
and events like it's exciting, because, something always goes wrong.
yeah.
And there's certain people that can handle that, and there's other people that can't.
Yeah.
And they fold and they cry and they quit, and then there's other people who are like, let's just find a solution. Let's figure it out. You know what I mean?
I feel like you would have known Jin Yu.
Yeah.
You did.
Yeah.
Did you work together?
We did a couple things together, and he was an incredibly, very special guy, very sweet guy, very, very genuine. He was one of those good people.
Yeah.
And
He was like one of the OG doing really great A-list events in Hollywood.
Yep.
Guys, and
Yeah.
was a very good friend of mine for very many
Yeah.
years. Sadly, he passed away a few years ago.
Yeah. He was definitely one of the good guys. And, he was one of those people that no matter how much quote unquote success I got from the people I worked with and stuff like that, he was one of those people that always like rooted for me and supported me and was excited to see me doing well.
Yeah.
Which was cool because again, you don't get a lot of that where people are like, dude, I'm really proud of you. This is awesome.
Yeah.
It's funny because I had dinner with a friend 2 nights ago who's had incredibly successful businesses. And we met for dinner and he gave me his address and I went over to his place. I had driven by his house 50 times and I was like, God, what an amazing house. Like I would dream to live in that house. And he's in that house. And for a second I was like, God, he's so lucky. But I was like, I'm like, man, I'm so proud of you because I know how hard he worked to be able to get that house. And even though I wish I lived in that house, I'm like, man,
You're happy
like
for
I'm
him.
happy for him. I'm not like angry at him or I'm not like mad at him. I'm like, this is incredible. Like this is awesome. So I like that type of stuff and I like seeing that and Jin would have been very much that way for sure.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And, he was just one of those guys that had so much integrity that if a relationship with someone else could benefit him more, but if he sees that you are getting screwed over in a situation, he will stand up for you.
Yeah.
Like, he's that guy. And it happened to me. I was a kid. I was working with him, and someone from a big company was trying to screw me out of my portion of things. And he was just like we weren't even that close at the time. And he just stood up for me. And I thought, God, like, this is what people need to be like. And we need more Jins in this world, not
1000%.
less.
Yeah.
Caviar isn't just a restaurant, it's an experience. Imagine fine dining where you also have omakase, hand roll classes, and fire showgirls. It's also the ideal spot for private parties and corporate events. Make sure to check out caviarrestaurants.com. What would you say was the most unlikely connection that you made? Like the 2 most unlikely people or brands to come together?
I would say, so in the music space, I've worked with a lot of different people, and I had a couple kind of funny situations with Billy Ray Cyrus, who's obviously, achy breaky heart, and from the Cyrus family and everything, and he had me come over to his house one night, and he played a song for me. And he was like, who do you think would be good for this? And I'm kind of an outside the box thinker, so I think of things. And he had actually a couple different songs. And one, I don't know if you remember the band Limp Bizkit.
Oh, of course.
Fred Durst, who lived right down the street. And I was like, oh my God, this would be perfect for like Fred Durst. And he's like, really? You really think so? And I was like, yeah.
So Billy Ray and Fred Durst?
Billy Ray and Fred Durst.
Oh, interesting.
So they ended up doing a song together.
I did not know that.
Yeah, that they actually performed it on the Arsenio Hall show. When they brought the Arsenio Hall show back, they performed it on that.
How long ago was that?
And it's online. This is probably 2017, 18 maybe.
Okay, so not that long ago.
Yeah. So they did a song together, and then another one was Dion Warwick, who's one of the greatest singers of our time, And so I put Billy Ray and Dion on a song, and that was really cool and really special.
Okay, I
and a lot
think
of
that's
fun.
around the time that I met Billy Ray, because Billy Ray and Dionne Warwick's son, Damon Elliott, did
Yep.
a song together.
Yep.
Billy Ray was just such a good guy.
Yeah.
Actually, if you have his contact info, I'm going to ask you to put us back into contact, because
Yeah.
he changed his number.
Yeah.
And yeah, he's also one of those guys that is just so helpful and so wonderful.
Yeah.
When we met, he helped me get my first feature for the studio that I was working at on Access Hollywood. He
Okay.
took me with him and introduced me to everyone. He was so cool. And then I was in New York for a Larry King event. Something happened with like the PR team.
Right.
team dropped out or whatever. So we're in New York. We have to get press for an event that we're doing with Larry King. And there's just nothing, no prospects, no TV shows. I was
Right.
like, what do I do? I'm in New York for, it wasn't my first time there, but it was my second time in New York, I think. I don't know anyone in New York. I've always been in LA. And so I'm like, what do I do? So I texted Billy. I was like, can you help me?
Yeah.
I need to get like press for what we're doing.
Yeah.
So he put me in touch with his publicity team. He's just a good guy.
Yeah.
Like he's
Yeah.
a really good
No, he's
friend.
he's a good guy, and he's a true artist. Like when I was spending a lot of time with him, he just spent time in like a room not much bigger than this, just working on his music, and and he's incredibly talented, and I think Achy Breaky Heart was like a blessing and a curse for him, because it made him a global superstar, but then it's all he was ever like associated with. But he's got so much music and so much talent. And then obviously, with Miley's success, he kind of went, for certain generations, he went from being Billy Ray Cyrus, this big music star, to Miley Cyrus's dad, but he's more than that. And so they're just such a talented family. All of them are incredible people. And even Billy's ex-wife Tish is just such a savvy businesswoman, and looks out for her whole family. And Noah, who's the youngest daughter, is incredibly talented. Brandy, I mean, they're really great family.
What would you say is your favorite friend to work with?
Well, my favorite friend, I mean, Pete Davidson and I have gotten incredibly close over the last couple of years. And we're like brothers at this point. We just have like so much love for each other. And he was one of those people that was so misunderstood. And, a lot of people don't understand what's the deal with him. Like, why are people so enamored with him? And then you meet him and you're like, wow, this is like a special, special guy. So he's really just like a beautiful human being, like a great soul. We unfortunately both lost our dads when we were younger, so I think there was definitely a connection there. He lost his dad in 9/11. And so he's just, a really, really, really special guy. And I love when we have the opportunity to spend time with each other and hang out. We talk, multiple times during the day. So it's really cool. And, I have quite a few like that, because a lot of my relationships, they transcend the normal, like, hey, that's my friend. Like, I get very integrated with these people and their families. I love the celebrities I work with that have kids, and I love doing stuff with their kids. A lot of them and a lot of us, we'd rather go take their kids to Dave and Buster's than go out to like a nightclub. You know what I mean? And I really love that and really cherish those moments. So it's pretty cool.
You do get a lot of press, though, for your relationships and everything that you're doing when you're out and about. You're getting a lot of press for it. So are you feeling like, oh, let me amplify and let me leverage that? Or you just don't have the need to, because you're already known so well within the circle where you need to actually have business transactions?
So it's funny, because luckily for me, there are some stories about me and what I do, and my name does come up. But there are a lot more stories where my name doesn't come up. I can't tell you, I've been the mystery man for probably 15 different, high profile female celebrities over the years, where my name's not even mentioned, where we get photographed walking on the street, or we get photographed because I'm holding their hand, helping them get in a car.
Yeah.
Where there's no romantic thing. It's my friend that I'm helping.
Yeah.
But obviously, the press and the paparazzi wants to turn into, you know, that I'm like the new guy in their life or whatever. And it's funny because they're used to getting photographed and used to getting paparazzi and dealing with all these photos. And I have some hysterical photos of me where I look like I'm on drugs because like when the flashes are going off, my eyes just like I'm like a deer in headlights.
I don't know if people realize just how uncomfortable it is. And
Yeah.
when it's multiple flashes all at once, it really is blinding and very uncomfortable.
So the majority of those, I have so many pictures like that with different celebrities. There's a picture of me and Selena Gomez in a car where I was completely caught off guard. Selena's like a little sister who I adore. And, you know, they were trying to make it into something that it wasn't. And I just look like I'm on drugs. People are like, you look like a crazy person. And that's happened multiple times over the years, you know, with multiple celebrities. So it's interesting because my main goal is obviously to protect my relationships and to protect them. And so, you know, if an article comes out and my name's mentioned, it's fine, but I don't actually seek that, you know, despite what people might think. I don't. I would rather kind of be under the radar, which is tricky because sometimes I do want to get credit for things, but you know that's part of the dance that I'm dealing with.
Do you use social media as your voice at all? Because I only see you really posting photos, but you're not really kind of taking control of your narrative to say, hey, this is who I am,
I mean,
right?
that one's tricky too because, you know, if you look at my Instagram, a lot of it is work related and it's to help me get noticed by brands and things like that. I get judged on it a lot because people are like, oh, he's only with famous people, but that's kind of my day to day. It's kind of my day to day. It's not intentional. And obviously, you know, I have friends that look out for me that like, dude, they're like, you're never going to meet a good woman because they look at your Instagram and they just want to be part of that life, you know,
the opportunistic
right.
type.
And so I remember years ago, I worked with a couple private jet companies, and I was just on a roll where I was traveling for like a month, and I kept posting photos on jets, and you know, which is a big red flag. And you know, it was a picture of me on a jet with like a backpack asleep. It was a picture of me on a jet holding a pizza. And I remember I woke up one day and I had all these DMs from all these incredibly beautiful women,
Instagram
from,
models,
like, all over the world. And I was like, oh my God, what is going on?
God.
And I'm like, and again, I don't consider myself all that. So I was like, what's happening here? And I called one of my good friends and I go, dude, I woke up to like all these freaking hot women like messaged me. And he was like, did you post like a photo of a jet yesterday? I go, yeah. And he goes, you idiot. He's like, they're not into you. They think that you like own the jet. And I was like, oh man, I was so like bummed out. But I was like, no, you're right. You know?
But it's like a dream and a curse all at once.
So it's funny because even in my regular day-to-day life, like I have friends that are like, you know, maybe you should have a different Instagram that's just you and your dog, just you and your mom. Like, you know, you doing your stuff that's not
laundry,
celebrity
pancakes,
related.
Totally.
But again, the issue is, and it's not, you know, intentional. It's just kind of my day to day. Like this is what I do for a living. It's my job. It's not like it's not orchestrated or it's not set up. It's what I do. You know?
And then I think a lot of people don't understand. It's not that you're trying to name drop or to show off. It's that a lot of these brand deals come through those kind of posts where you are showing your day-to-day life and what your connections are, what your...
And that's how I make a living, you know. Some people are doctors and, you know, I make a living by working with brands and, you know, I work with different brands and I'm on retainers and I have things that I have to do in order to get paid. And so, it's kind of what I need to do.
Yeah. No, but that's a fun job. Is there ever a time where you're not enjoying your work?
I definitely don't enjoy it when I am having to rely on someone showing up.
Oh.
That's incredibly stressful.
Wait, give me like a situation.
Incredibly stressful. Well, just like, you know, if a brand pays for a celebrity to come to an event and they're supposed to get to the event at 8:00
and they're not
and now it's 9:30 and they're still not at the event, but the brand paid, you know, the celebrity to be there, and they maybe flew me out to be there. And it's like, and I'm like, no, they're texting me, here's the screenshot, they're on the way. But that's super not fun.
Oh my God. So do you have contracts with the talent when that's happening so that they kind of have to show up?
That is definitely a risk that I take, that I don't do a lot of that. I'm never going to hold a gun to someone's head and be like, you have to do this. And again, I think that's why I have the relationships I have and I have the success I have. And, you know, usually it's rare that it happens, but, you know, there's definitely a punctuality thing. And it's funny because, like Snoop, for example, Snoop is incredible and everybody loves Snoop. I don't think there's anybody that doesn't like Snoop. And there's been times where I've had events with Snoop where Snoop has shown up an hour late. But then there's been times where I've had events with Snoop and Snoop's shown up 2 hours early. And I'm like, what are you doing? And he's like, well, I was in the area. So, you know, I was in the area. And I'm like, but the event's not for 2 hours. You know what I mean? And so, and I'm not even there yet. I'm an hour away. So those kind of moments are kind of funny. But yeah, definitely the stress, because you know, as a human being, you can only rely on yourself.
Yeah.
So when you're having to rely on someone else, you know, to show up or make their flight, you know, that's tough.
Totally.
Yeah.
That is a really tricky thing that you kind of have to tiptoe around, I guess, because if you do only contracts and official stuff, you're not really the friend anymore. You're like the official business person.
Yep.
And then, you know, you have less leverage that way sometimes. But then when you're the friend, you do run the risk of, oh God, like, I hope they don't mess this up, you know?
Yeah.
What's been your craziest story?
My craziest, well, you know, I work with a stem cell clinic in Medellin, Colombia called BioAccelerator, which is amazing. And I take celebrities and athletes to get stem cells in Medellin.
You said Colombia, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Colombia's like known to have one of the best services, right, for stem cells.
Yeah. So it's very, very interesting. You know, the verdict's still up in the air if stem cells are good or if they're bad, but they've had tremendous success with a lot of people. And what's interesting about this place, BioAccelerator, is that they're not allowed to advertise in the States because stem cells is illegal in the U.S. Because, you know, in my opinion, and again, this is my opinion, I could be wrong, but, you know, medical companies want us to be on medication. It's a trillions and trillions and trillions of dollar business. If you have a sore shoulder, they want you to have to take something for the pain. If you get stem cells and you don't need to take medication anymore, that means a company is losing trillions of dollars, you know? So BioAccelerator is not allowed to advertise in the US. They can't have billboards, they can't have commercials. So they have to rely on celebrities and athletes coming there and talking about it and posting about it. That's how they're able to get the word out. And so, but getting to Medellin's not easy, you know, unless you fly private. But, you know, there's no straight flights from LA to Medellin. So you need connecting flights. And with connecting flights, anything can happen. And I've definitely had situations where a celebrity missed their connecting flight, and then it backs up everything, and it backs up the services that are going to be getting done and all those type of things. And you have to shift the medical staff's schedule and all that because you're dealing with doctors and nurses and prep people and anesthesiologists and all that stuff. So that can be an adventure for sure.
What would you say is the coolest thing that you've accomplished?
The coolest thing I get, again, and I'm a sensitive person, so I get very moved and excited when I can introduce like a sick kid to a famous celebrity, or, you know, I can create an experience, you know, for somebody. I had a family, or not a family friend, but I had a mutual friend who reached out to me, whose dad was a diehard Philadelphia Eagles fan, and I'm a lunatic for all Philly sports. And I have great relationships with the teams. And her dad, his wife had just died, and he was devastated and crushed. And so to cheer him up, she got him tickets to a game. and they flew out to Philly, and she reached out to me and she's like, I know you have a lot of access. Is there any way that you could do something special for my dad? And, me having lost a dad, it's like it pulled on my heartstrings. And, she was like, is there any way that you could get us on the field? I understand I'm asking you, you don't really know me, out of nowhere. And so I was able to make that happen. And that was really special and really cool to be able to do that. And so those type of things are really amazing. When you meet, kids that are sick that might not be alive for a year, and you're able to get them a video from a celebrity, or you're able to, introduce them to a celebrity, like what that does for them. I've had situations where, I remember years ago, this was a hard one, where a friend of mine reached out. He had a family friend who had terminal cancer, was a huge LA Dodgers fan. I'm not an LA Dodgers fan, but I can appreciate fandom. And the guy wanted to go to a game and, wanted to maybe meet some of the players. And so we got him all set up for a game. We were super excited, and he was too weak that day to go to the game. And we were like, oh man. So I had the Dodgers rush and send him a care package. And while the package was in the mail, he passed away, and he didn't get to go to the game, and everybody was devastated. But the package that they sent, it had a signed Dodger baseball, and it had a Dodgers blanket and all this stuff. So, they put the ball in his casket. They covered the casket with the blanket, and they were like, we just want you to know, the fact that you guys did this and, it meant so much to us. And he was so excited about getting that package in the mail, and, he didn't make it. But so those type of things for me are really beautiful and really special. And when those type of things happen, and then I compare it to people hating on me, or, being like, you're a bat, those are the things that keep me kind of going, when it comes to that stuff.
How has your perception of fame and celebrity changed since you started in the industry and until now?
So for me, I've always been around it. And so for me, all these people, I all look at them as regular human beings. They just have a really cool job, but they're just like you and me, and they're just like your neighbor or my postman who brings my mail. We're all the same. If you punch Jim Carrey in the stomach, he's gonna be like, why did you do that? Just like if you punch me in the stomach, you know what I mean? So we're all the same, and it's all about perception, and there's part of the world that looks at celebrities and they go, why do people make such a big deal out of them? Where the people we should make a really big deal out of are doctors, that save people's lives and things like that, or teachers that are teaching these people how to become actors and actresses and stuff. So, and the other thing that a lot of people don't ever stop and think about, yes, celebrities have an incredible, beautiful life, and they have, they don't really have to worry about a lot of things that mainstream America does, but their problems are elevated. They have money problems. Their money problems are bigger than our money problems. They have family problems. Their family problems are bigger than our family problems. In a lot of situations, they're taking care of 16 people, sometimes 20 people, sometimes 30 people. So, and people have that idea, even with athletes. When an athlete signs a $300 million contract and everyone's like, oh my God, this guy got $300 million to play baseball, right away, half of it's gone for taxes. So now that $300 million is down to $150 million. Then he's got to give 10% to his agent. He's got to give 15% to his manager. He's got his lawyer that he has to give a percentage to. He has his accountant. He has to give it. And at the end of the day, that $300 million is now maybe $30 million when all is said and done. And then on top of it, they're taking care of all these family members and all these people. And so it's funny, Chuck Liddell, who's one of my best friends, when Chuck started making a lot of money, he had people coming out of the woodwork. Oh, I need $50,000. I want to start a lawnmower business. Oh, can you lend me $10,000? Oh, I want to take this girl out to this nice restaurant. Can I have $500? And next thing you know, he's an incredibly kind guy. He was losing money, So it's not, all that it's sought after to be. There's a lot of, like I said, it's a blessing and a curse. There's a lot of opportunities, but it's subjective, and, I think also really early on, I had good experiences with celebrities when I was younger, and I had bad experiences, and you just realize that we're all human, you know?
As the middleman, what do you think is most lucrative from a business perspective? Is it the brand deals? Is it producing? Is it pitching TV shows?
I think it's all those things, but I think that, you know, if I'm going to start a brand with a celebrity, it's getting that celebrity equity and getting equity for myself. You know, if I'm going to do a movie, you know, it's getting, you know, there's set producer fees and executive producer fees and things like that. And it's making sure that, you know, you're protected and you get that as well. But, and, you know, I understand the value of what a celebrity brings to a brand. So I'm one of those people, like, if a brand comes to me and they say, we have 20% to play with, you figure out what you're going to do. In most cases, I'm not going to be like, well, I'm giving the celebrity 10% and I'm taking 10%, because the celebrity, because of who they are and what they bring to the table, they deserve more than I do, you know? But you do that enough and you get 5% here and 2% there and 3%. It can add up where, you know, you're doing multiple things. And that's how sometimes managers and agents surpass the money that their talent makes, because they're involved in so many
different
things. Yeah.
How are you able to keep track of all of the things that you're involved in?
Yeah. So for me,
do you have a team?
No, I don't have a team. And a lot of people have talked to me about that. But partially the reason I don't is because I'm very hands-on with my people. And I've been in situations where, you know, sometimes I have to be at 3 places at the same time, and it's hard, and I have to kill myself to pull that off. But I've been in situations where I was like, I can't make it. I'm going to send somebody in my place. And that celebrity is like, oh, now you're choosing someone else over me, or you're too big time for me.
It's like a jealous girlfriend.
You know? Yeah.
Yeah.
And like Chuck, for example, and he's one of the greatest UFC fighters of all time. He's in the Hall of Fame. He's a multiple champion. Literally, UFC exists because of Chuck Liddell. And he always jokes, like, if I have an event or something, he's like, oh, I'm on the B team. So, like, you know, I come, like, last, you know, which is a joke between us because he's like a brother as well. So it's one of those things that's kind of funny. But, yeah, so I don't have a team, so I have to exert myself a lot. But again, I think that's why I have the relationships I have, because they know they can count on me and they know I'm going to come through. And I also, at a certain point, learned that sometimes I can't. And sometimes I have to say, you know what? No, I can't make it. Yeah. But I think the respect comes with that, you know, being able to say no.
Totally. You don't want to be too available all the time.
Right.
Is there anything that now looking back you wish you did differently? Because like me looking back, I go, oh, I would have definitely majored in something to do with finance versus sociology. I feel like where life has taken me, that would be way more useful.
Right.
So anything like that for you?
1,000%. I think about it all the time, and I think about it almost every day. But, you know, this was the path I chose, and I can't change it now. I can't go back. I look at it and I look at opportunities, especially with TV hosting, because that was my true love. And when I was hosting and I had a little bit of success, right around that time is when celebrities started hosting everything. So I started losing jobs to everybody, not because I wasn't good, but because they had name recognition. And so that was really hard for me. And I had people like, I don't know if you remember the singer Sugar Ray. And Sugar Ray was a host on Extra.
Oh, that's
and
right.
I was doing stuff for Extra at the time.
Yeah.
And he was like, dude, you're so much better at this than I am. And he's like, but I'm Sugar Ray. So they gave me the job. And I remember that was hard for sure. You know, when I look at my progress in school and going to college and everything, like, yeah, I mean, if I had been a journalism major, would that have led to other opportunities? And my dad and I used to talk about it, you know, about being a sportscaster and working your way up. But, you know, you got to move to like Sioux City, Iowa and live there for 3 years. And then you go from Sioux City, Iowa to maybe like Minnesota. And then you live there for like 5 years. And then you go from Minnesota to Las Vegas and then you're there. And I didn't know if that was the path I wanted to take. You know, I'm happy where I'm at. I do wish I had been smarter about protecting myself, when doing deals out of the gate. But, it just happened the way that it happened. And, I do wish that I was a little bit more business savvy, but again, I think that would have been a red flag to a lot of the people that I work with.
It's a package deal, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but finding that balance is definitely important.
But now the obvious question is, you have all of these resources, you have all of this knowledge, all of this experience. Why not give yourself the job? Create that opportunity for yourself.
Yeah. I mean, that's something that, a lot of people have wanted me to do that and looked into it. But again, it's like me, the train's always going. And to be able to do that and create that, I'd have to stop the train. And I don't know if I'm willing to take that risk to stop the train for that long. Like, people always joke with me, like, I'm on my phone 24/7 and I'm always on my phone. I'm always wheeling and dealing. And I remember years ago, before Wi-Fi was really prevalent, my mom and I went on a cruise, and in between ports, I had no cell service. And I remember I was panicking, because I'm like, I don't know what's going on or what's going to happen. And I remember we got to a port and I turned my phone on and I had something like 268 messages over like 2 days. And a lot of it was from big celebrities that were like, hey, I'm trying to go to this restaurant tonight. And it was the first time I had never gotten back to them, because that's one thing I'm known for too, is always getting back to everybody and being reliable. And so that was really, really difficult for me. And so, I'm lucky and blessed in the fact that I can be anywhere in the world. And as long as I have cell service, I can do my job, So I could be here today. I remember years ago, I worked for SBE, that nightlife company. They owned restaurants, hotels, and clubs. And I had a job, and I had to, report to somebody, and I had to be at meetings and stuff. And I remember my boss called me at the time, and he's like, where are you? And I'm like, I'm in Iceland. And he's like, you're in Iceland? What are you talking about? Like, everybody's here. We have like a mandatory staff meeting. And I was like, remember I told you I was going to leave town? I didn't tell him where I was going. Yeah. And he was like, well, how am I going to explain this to everybody? And I was like, well, I have Stacey Ferguson's baby shower at the SLS Hotel. I have a birthday dinner for Miley Cyrus at Clio. And I'm throwing that event with Slash at like Sayers Club. And he was like, oh, okay. Because as long as I was doing my job, it didn't matter where I was. And I'm still lucky, to this day that I'm able to do that. I can be anywhere. I just need cell service. So
what do you feel like are the key elements that set you apart from everyone else and made you successful? So I think one of the obvious kind of lessons was, being a problem solver.
Right.
And being reliable.
Yeah.
Being really friendly and personable.
Yeah.
What else?
Being honest. Being honest, being upfront, not pulling, fast ones on these people. So, I use this analogy. If a brand comes to me and a brand says, we have $50,000, that's all we have, $50,000, find a celebrity, you figure out how you're going to distribute it. I myself, the way I was raised and the way my brain works, I can't go to a celebrity and be like, I have $40,000.
Yeah.
And keep $10,000 for myself. I can't do that. If they say they have $50,000 for the celebrity, I'm going to go to the celebrity and say, I have $50,000 for you. And I tell the brand, you're going to have to figure out how you're going to pay me, because I'm just not going to, I don't play that game, and so
the truth always comes out. So your reputation would be tarnished soon enough if you did.
I think that's something that is super important. And I think about it all the time, because I could easily do that. I could easily be like, but to me, like, if it's coming from a big brand, let's say it's like Red Bull or something, and I go to somebody, 40,000 sounds weird.
Yeah.
It's definitely, in their mind, they're like, oh, they definitely offered 50 and he's keeping 10. You know what I mean? 30,000 sounds weird, If it's just one of those things, depending on what it is and who it is. And it's funny because sometimes celebrities, they'll just take the money and be like, thank you so much. Very few of them have said to me, well, I got 50,000. Let me give you 5% of that, or let me give you 10% of that. When that happens, it's beautiful for me, because I'm able to go back to them and be like, no. I'm covered by the brand. You don't have to give me that. And they're like, oh, wow, really? They're like, gee, thanks, Dave. And that really helps me, down the long road. It's cool. I don't mind saying this, but like, one of the people that was that way with me that most people wouldn't think this was Scott Disick. Scott Disick, I did a deal with Scott, and Scott was like, what do I owe you? And I'm like, you don't owe me anything. Like, I'm taken care of on that end. That's for you. And most people wouldn't think that he of all people would be that way, but he was, and that was really cool.
It's so funny. It's like the same names get mentioned during this podcast over and over again.
Really?
And yeah, so David Weintraub
Yeah.
mentioned him last time, but didn't have the nicest things to say.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's just funny when it's like, it goes to show. It's like people are different with different people. People have different relationships. You really can't just kind of box people into one type of way.
Right.
But yeah, I think it's also just smart, because then when another opportunity comes along, you are likely to go for the people who appreciate it. Right?
Yeah.
Rather than the one that goes, thanks, peace out.
Yeah. I mean, for sure, depending on the brands, and again, it's difficult. And what I do with a lot of brands is I tell them, I can suggest a person for you, but I would rather you give me like your wish list, because then I know that they really like want them.
So huge brands, why do they approach you versus the agents or the managers of the talent?
Because a lot of times the agents and managers are dealing with so many other things that they don't have time for that. And the agents and managers, they're not invested in the deals where their person's making $50,000. They're invested in the deals where their person's making $2 million. Those are the deals that the agents and the managers want. I deal in like the middle space,
That's interesting, yeah.
And yeah, I've had situations like that all the time where I'll say to a celebrity, let's take this to your manager, and their manager will laugh and be like, Dave, she's not doing that for $100,000. Get her a $2 million deal and then we'll talk. Now what happens in that situation is the talent might want to do that deal for $100,000 or $200,000. It might be worth it to them.
Yeah.
I'm also pretty lucky in terms of a lot of times I'll catch somebody on a day where they're maybe going to buy a new car for their mom, or they're planning a vacation, and they're like, oh, wow, yeah, I'll do that. That'll just cover the vacation, or that'll cover the new car for my mom. So that's fun when that happens, and that's kind of cool. And I'm pretty lucky where I get lucky sometimes with that stuff.
You also have to protect these relationships. So what are situations where you feel like you need to play security guard too?
Yeah, well, look, all the time, and it's happened a few times. I did an event in Switzerland. It was a golf tournament with the watch brand Omega, and the guy that came to me, I trusted him. And I introduced him to the celebrities, and I brought the celebrities out there, and he ended up screwing me and not paying me for doing my job. He kept the extra money for himself, and I introduced him to the celebrities, and he now has done 5 or 6 other things with the celebrities and made a bunch of money, and I got screwed. And I told the celebrities afterwards, and they're like, "Oh my God, you should have told us. Like, we would have you're our friend. Like, we would have handled that." And I just think that guy one day, it'll come back to him at some point. But that was definitely disappointing. So that's hard. It is very difficult because obviously when I bring a celebrity to a brand, the brand immediately is like, oh, well, are you going to put us on text together? And so that's hard sometimes, because I got to really figure out, like, am I going to be able to trust the owner of this company with this celebrity? Are they going to go and do something else with the celebrity without me? So that's tricky, and I have to really lean on the relationship that I have with that person,
With the celebrity or the brand?
With the celebrity to ensure that, if future stuff happens that, I'll be included. But again, my relationships are so good that it's a friendship.
Yeah.
So
sometimes when it's a brand that comes with a big budget and they want the introduction, that's a little tricky and scary too, because technically you can't really vouch for that person. Like whenever I'm in similar situations, I literally text the friend and I go, just FYI, don't know this person well. Don't have a lot of experience with them. Seems promising, but vet for yourself, you know? Do you do that where you're just like, 'cause you can't really be responsible for people?
No, sometimes I definitely do. And, you know, obviously in business, there's always a risk factor. And I try to do that. But, you know, I've had other situations with the sunglass company. I had a longtime friend that got involved, and it really hurt me because he went around town telling everybody it was his idea, it was his company, and it wasn't.
Yeah.
It was my idea and Jamie's idea, and we put it together, but he went around and took credit for it. And because he's a savvy business guy, he was able to take that and build other businesses and be like, I'm the guy that built that. He did not build it. I built it. Jamie built it. But he went and did it. And some people believed him. And I'll never forget, I went somewhere and someone goes, oh, you work for so-and-so's company. And I was like, no, I don't. I co-founded the company. He's not even a co-founder. He just was originally helping with social media. So that was definitely a life lesson for sure.
My God.
Yeah.
This episode is sponsored by Voskevas Winery in Armenia. This family-run wine castle is known for its unique architecture and award-winning wines. Planning a tasting, tour, or special event, call 374-9955-0970. How much of the, because it's basically what your story reminded me of it, how much of the fake it till you make it do you see in this industry where you know that they're actually lying or faking it, and then it actually works out and suddenly you're like, holy shit, like this is a lot, right?
A lot. Yeah, a lot. Yeah.
My God.
It's definitely annoying.
Yes. Yes.
Definitely annoying.
I would say like a good 50%, if not more.
I think more.
More, right?
Yeah. I think more.
Yeah.
For sure.
But somehow it's like when all of the lies aren't caught on time, even if they are eventually, like if it surfaces, they've already made the money and the connections to be able to just continue on. So it's just,
I mean, that happened with the previous story that I was telling. That guy's made a lot more money than I ever have.
Yeah.
And it was all based on lies, you know? Yeah.
And then ultimately people don't care if it benefits them in the industry, so it just kind of lives on, right? Yeah. So we just have to...
And sometimes people will say, oh, well, yeah, that person's not a good guy, but oh, well, you know? That happens quite often, too.
Yeah. Well, what about the longevity? Have you noticed if they have as much longevity, those types, as the honest ones in the industry?
Sometimes yes, sometimes no.
Because they burn out quickly most of the time.
Yeah, sometimes yes, sometimes no. But sometimes those really cutthroat people make so much money that it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, that's true.
And they don't care because they've now got so much money. They're like, I don't care if people talk shit about me. Like, I'm set for life. Yeah. You know?
Okay, so now someone who would like to follow in your footsteps, what would be like the key piece of advice that you would give?
I would say, you know, what I do is obviously very tricky. And it's funny because I kind of was at the forefront of this type of business. And now there's agencies that are dedicated to it, or agencies have departments that do what I do.
So what is that department technically?
Well, it's like, you know, brand integration and marketing and all that type of stuff.
Okay.
But, you know, there's a lot of agencies out there that they get hired because they have a big website and they have a big office with a bunch of employees, where I don't.
Yeah.
I'm a word of mouth guy. So like people hear about me or find out about me and then like, oh my God, you're actually real and you actually did what you said you're going to do. A lot of times an agency will get hired, they'll get paid $100,000 from a brand or something. Then they'll call me in a panic the day before an event and be like, we promised all these people, we don't have anybody, we need you to bail us out. And they're like, but we don't have any money left because we went through it. And they'll be like, we have like $2,500 or we'll have $5,000. I always want to tell them to screw off, but the reason I'm able to do it is because I'm literally laying on the couch watching Netflix And for me, it's maybe 2 texts. So I'm like, do I want to send 2 texts and make $5,000, or do I want to tell them no and not make anything? And I generally cave and do it. But then what happens is I save the day, and then they get rehired by the brand. So they're set, you know, which is super annoying and super frustrating. But, you know, I would rather kind of, and a lot of people have talked to me like, why don't you build your own agency and do that? And I just don't think it would work, you know. I don't think I'd have the success that I have, you know, when it comes to that. So
that is a very interesting approach.
Yeah.
Because really a part of the niche is the fact that you're the friend.
Right.
And so that's how a lot of these things work out.
Yeah.
So
and
if
you
you're
mentioned
an
that
official
you mentioned that
agency-
earlier, because once I changed that, and again, I had celebrities years ago that were like, dude, you do all this stuff, you set all this stuff up, you get me planes, you get me cars, you get my family here, you do this, you do that. Let me pay you like a monthly fee. But at that point, I was like, we're too close
for me to
for me
accept
to
money
charge
from
you.
you.
Like, I can't do that.
Yeah.
And then they were like, well, do that with your new people. And, you know, sometimes it's hard for me. I've had people that are like, let us pay you like a monthly retainer to do all this stuff for me. But I'd rather do it like case by case. Like, I have we've become dear friends, but I did a few things for them and they really wanted to pay me. And I was like, I'm just not comfortable taking money from you guys.
Yeah.
And they're like, do you need anything? Is there something that you want? Like a pair of shoes or something? Can we do something?
Yeah.
And I remember my iPhone at the time had like a crack in the top of it, and everyone used to make fun of my iPhone. I was like, I don't even feel good about this. I'm like, I guess you guys could get me a new iPhone. And they were like, oh my God, absolutely. Like, which one do you want? You know, and I accepted it reluctantly. But, you know, they were like, we want to do something for you, you know? So in that case, you know, I did it. But yeah, I mean, it's tricky when it comes to that again, because so much of it is based on a friendship relationship.
And the reciprocity.
Right. So that when you change that dynamic, for example, all of a sudden, if a couple of the people I work with, I was like, yeah, I'll help you with that. I'll help you with that. But you got to pay me $2,000. They're going to be like,
yeah.
What are you talking about?
It's even kind of gross. Like, ew.
Yeah. Like, it's not worth the $2,000 to me, you know, or whatever the case may be. So,
whereas when you do a few favors, then they almost feel like they kind of owe you.
Yeah.
Because you're doing all of this stuff selflessly.
Well, and I often tell people, and I had a phone call about it earlier today, it's not that celebrities love me and that I'm the greatest guy ever and I'm, you know, they think I'm wonderful. Celebrities answer my phone call because there's something good on the other end of the phone. There's either an opportunity or there's something. It's never me calling and saying, hey, can I get tickets for this? Or, hey, can you sign this? Or, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That when I call, and I believe there's a lot of celebrities that truly, truly care about me. And if something bad happened to me, they'd be devastated. But I also believe there's a lot that could care less. Like if I got hit on the freeway.
Yeah.
But again, they're going to answer the phone because they know there's something good on the other end.
Yeah. And I think in general, when you're at that level of fame, you're used to people constantly wanting to be a part of it and wanting to take. You have a lot of opportunists around you. So if there's someone who's actually saying, hey, I'll do this for you, and then they don't ask for anything in return, it's almost weird. Yeah.
No, it sometimes makes people uncomfortable. And I've had a couple, you know, celebs that I met, and the first time they met me, they're like, dude, you were a lot, and there was this and there was that, and they had to like process it.
Yeah.
And then the second time they met me, they're like, oh, wow, you know, you're a pretty nice guy. And then by the third time, they're like, wow, you're actually a really good person. But, you know, initially it can be a lot to hear all this stuff that's going on. And, you know, I'm sure like even you listening to that Zoom call I had, it's like, whoa, there's a lot going on here. Like, what is this person talking about?
But at the same time, it totally made sense that you are who you are. It gave me a lot of background information for this conversation because just understanding that you are pitching and you're creative and you have a whole vision for what you're doing. So I just thought like, you know, you Google this guy, it says Hollywood connector and it's all like, oh, celebrities, famous people, but it's actually a lot of work, a lot of strategy, and a lot of smarts that go into doing what you do, and a lot of talent.
I appreciate it. It's funny because I think sometimes people judge people, on the outside. They make a judgment call. And so years ago, when we started the sunglass brand, I used to go on QVC, which is the home shopping network, and I'd sell the glasses, and it was amazing. We'd sell like $500,000 worth of glasses in like 7 minutes. Wow. It's actually really incredible how that model works. But you had to go to training for it. And so I had to fly out to the training, and I wore like a 3-piece suit, and I was wearing my glasses because I'm selling glasses, and I looked very Hollywood and very cheesy. And they had to go around the room, and everyone got matched up with a person that was going to train them, how to talk on QVC. And the girl that I ended up getting, she told me afterwards, they were going around the room and they're like, okay, we're going to put you with this person. We're going to put you with that person. And in her mind, she goes, please don't match me with this douchebag looking guy from Hollywood with the glasses. Please, like, I don't want him. I don't want him. I don't want him. And then they matched me with her. So we sit down. I can tell she does not like me. And she says, so why did you start this brand? And in her mind, she was thinking I'm going to say, oh, well, I want to be rich and I want to, have a Ferrari and I want to date a bunch of women and all that stuff. She asked me, and I say, I just, I was supposed to go to school to be an orthodontist. I didn't. I feel like I let my parents down a little bit. I just want to do something that's going to make my mom proud. And she was like, huh? And I was like, I just want to do something that's going to make my mom proud. And she's like, I owe you an apology. And I was like, what do you mean? And she's like, I thought you look all Hollywood and, she's like, I just thought you were going to be this really cheesy guy. And she's like, I need to apologize to you because I did not want to be matched up with you. And she's like, I did not expect that answer from you. Mm-hmm. And she's like, wow, I like really judged you and I'm sorry. And I was like, I wasn't mad at her or anything. I was like, I totally get it. And I was so appreciative, that she admitted that to me. Like, I thought it was cool. Mm-hmm. And, and then we had a great session and it went really well and it was awesome. But, so that's the thing. I think people, I just wish people would allow themselves to get to know each other a little bit better. They make the assumption, and like I said, whether it's Pete Davidson or whether it's Joe, like Joe's this big, giant, hunky guy, and women are like, oh my God, what is this guy all about? And then you see him with his little chihuahua and you're like, this doesn't match up. Mm-hmm. And he's actually like such a sweet guy and
really
like,
nurturing,
such a good guy.
Caring.
And,
very
and you just
thoughtful.
Wouldn't expect that. You're judging him based on, how he looks or how he dresses or, and that's the thing again in this town. It's like even I remember when I started making a little bit of money and it was time to get a new car. That was like a really stressful thing for me because I'm like, if I get this car, people are going to think this. And if I get that car, people are going to think that.
Yeah.
And
either like, I'm poor or I'm flashy, right?
I'm like what do I do?
Totally.
So, yeah.
That's so funny because really it's all about, what kind of image you're portraying. Yep. And yeah, you don't want to be like the douchey guy, but you also don't want to, go, okay, I'm poor. And then they go,
yeah.
People judge. It's like you drive up to the studio in a car that doesn't fit the image. They go, oh, maybe we could screw him out of the paycheck.
Yeah, but you hear about people. You hear about guys that like rent a Lamborghini every month, and they live like at their aunt's house.
Yeah.
All they have is that that Lamborghini.
Yeah.
And
then you have like Matt Groening, the creator of The Simpsons, who is super wealthy.
Right.
But like so chill, you would never think it. Like when he's walking by, he's not in like all designer and flashy, just a super cool, normal guy.
Yeah.
I always tend to appreciate that a lot more than the flashy
1,000%.
stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's been so great getting to know you, and I feel like you're going to have to be back, like, in a few months at most with a lot more updates, especially with your own brands that you're working with. I think that sounds really awesome.
No, thank you for having me, and I appreciate T introducing us. And, he's such a good guy, too. And
yeah, so you guys met at Caviar Restaurant, his restaurant?
We met. I think we messaged somehow. And then I ended up going to Caviar, and we just hit it off. And the place is phenomenal.
How cool is the decor?
It's so
like
good.
it's
I love the decor.
It's such a cool vibe.
Yeah, and I brought Chuck there, and I've tried to bring a couple other people there. When he had the one downtown, it was a little trickier. I had some of the LA Kings go because it was by the arena. But yeah, it's just such a good place. And you talk about like that's a really kind, good, generous, humble, sweet person. Who he's like one of those people. He's like impossible not to like. You know?
Yeah, I love that. And like when he talked about introducing us, I was like, how do you even know all these people? And it makes sense. Good people always know good people. So,
Yeah.
Yeah, but thank you so much for being here.
Thank you. I appreciate
really awesome
it. Thanks for having me.
getting to know you.
Thank you.
A huge thanks to Torpedo Comics and Essentia Beauty Spa for helping to make this podcast possible. You've probably seen Torpedo Comics in your local malls, but you can also visit them online at torpedocomics.com for an amazing selection of comics and collectibles. As for Essentia Beauty Spa, their beauty experts are truly unparalleled. I trust Diana, the founder, with all of my hair needs. She's simply the best. For more information, visit essentiabeautyspa.com. If you enjoyed this episode, please be sure to follow, subscribe, and all that good stuff. Your support helps this channel grow, allowing us to bring you even more engaging and high-quality content. You can also follow us across all social media platforms.